The term Sephardi originally comes from the word Sepharad, a biblical reference to a city in Spain. The expulsion of Jews from the Iberian Peninsula, from Spain in 1492 and from Portugal in 1497, lent them the name Sephardim, a term that later came to mean any Jew that held similar practices of the original Sephardic Jews. This extends to the Middle East and includes Jews of Arabic and Persian background, whether or not they had any connection to the original expulsion. Shiraz, a city in Iran's province of Fars, has been the center for the country's art and culture since medieval times. Research indicates that the Jews are most likely one of the longest-standing religious inhabitants of Fars, and their influence on Persian folk and art music has been significant. Tracking down the traditions of Persian Jewish music before the 19th century has proven difficult, but works of famous poets such as Malouan Shahin of the 14th century and Imrani of the 16th century are still accessible. Their poems were strictly sacred Jewish poems, but among ancient Jewish manuscripts there are also transliterated poems of Rumi, the world-renowned Islamic poet, as well as Jami and Hafez. This interest in secular poetry suggests the possibility of Sephardic musicians participating in their 17th century performances. Scholars have often considered Shirazi Jews the finest musicians in all of Iran, as they are said to have preserved the classical Persian music traditions. The following is a Jewish prayer called Ashrei, sung a cappella by a Sephardi chazan, or liturgical vocalist. The transliterated Hebrew for Ashrei itself appears on the left, and its translation on the right.
קמתי באשמורת לבקש על עווני ונפשי שחרחורת מפני רוב זדוני רחם על עדתך צאן מרעיתך אשרי יושבי ביתך עוד יעללו חסלה אשרי יושבי ביתך עוד יעללו חסלה אשרי העם שככה לו אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו תהילה לדוד ארוממך אלוהי המלך ואברך שמך לעולם ועד בכל יום אברכך.
In the past, professional Jewish musicians rarely played the popular solo instrument called the santur, or dulcimer, but rather joined with a musical ensemble consisting of at least 6 instrumentalists and usually up to 9. This included 1 to 2 tars, or lutes, 1 to 2 zarbs, a single-headed drum, 1 to 2 kemanche, also known as kemanche, which is a spike fiddle, 1 diyar frame drum, 1 whole double-headed drum, and either a setar, a small 3-stringed instrument, or a ney, the Persian name for flute. In modern music ensembles, there is more likely 3 to 4 pieces and just as many musicians. The instruments played are generally 1 to 2 violins, 1 tar, 1 zarb player, doubling in diara, and a singer. For large affairs, the ensemble might be larger, but more often than not, they're even smaller than this, with either a violinist or a tar player, doubling with a zarb playing singer. In Shiraz, the term motreb was synonymous with Jewish professional musician. In 1903, there were 60 professional musicians in Shiraz alone, all of whom were Jewish. This figure is significant when compared with the number of Jewish musicians in Tehran, Iran's capital, a mere 30 or 40. Informants have reported that by 1949 there were at least 150 to 200 motreb in Shiraz. At least 10% of all males in Shiraz were musicians. Since then, most have moved to Israel or found employment in Tehran. While Jewish sacred music of Fars clearly influenced much of the Persian folk and art music of the region, there were also some influences on Jewish sacred music by non-Jewish and secular music in the Fars province. While Jews kept their synagogue prayers and rituals as uninfluenced as possible, semi-sacred songs sung at Jewish festivities such as weddings and circumcisions appeared to have mixed considerably with secular tunes. As previously noted, musicians often performed the poems of Rumi, borrowing not only the words but distinctly Muslim melodies as well. In the following clip from a recent concert, the song Yibane Hamikdash, performed by David Dardashti, although the melody is clearly a Sephardic tune, the instruments used are modern, with heavy influence from secular practices. Take a look. As you may have noticed, the songs were mostly spiritual, with a lot of emphasis on various vocal pronunciations of words. This is because Jewish music almost always relies on sacred text. That ends the exploration of Sephardic Jewish music for today. Thanks for watching.